Alright, what is up guys, Azura here, back again with another deck profile. This time we're going to be taking a look at Gurguit. So even though this deck in my opinion didn't really have a whole lot of updates to what the deck actually plays, the deck got a good amount of relevant buffs. So figured we'd take a look at it. I do think this is one of the better anti-meta. It's definitely like an anti-meta deck where it itself isn't amazing, but it is pretty solid at dealing with what the current meta is. So without further ado, let's take a look at the list. So look here, the list is not actually that different from like back when the deck first got heavily launched. So we'll take a look at everything anyway. So starter I think is still the same from back then. It's the Coel, I think it's the name. It's GB1, Unite. If your Vanguard's grade 3 or higher Gurguit, put it into your soul, check out 4, call over among them, and give that unit plus 2k. So it has anti-retire too, so goes to soul, fuels your soul, you can call a card. Just a pretty solid card overall. None of your other starters really do anything of relevance. This is definitely your best start. It's definitely the best starter that you have that you can choose from. So that's why we're playing it. And then as for grade 1, we are playing 4 of these Stride Fodder. Stride Fodder searches Gurguit. You need consistency to find your ride. Stride Fodder is always nice. We're playing 4 of it. Even better now with the buff to Heavenly, to not Heavenly, the whatever the name of this grade 3 Gurguit is. It can actually now gain the backrow intercept off of its GB2. So definitely no longer just a brick on the board if you have to call it. So that's definitely very nice. Next up, one of the cards that did receive a buff, and in my opinion the most impactful buff to the deck, is the Horsa. So its skill before was Unite. When a card is called, he himself and the card in its column both get plus 2k. So you just look at this as like a 4k column buff, but before it was once per turn, so you cannot. So even if you called multiple cards and all that, so yeah, so this card doesn't just proc when something's called to its call. It's not like as long as something is called, he himself plus whatever is in front of it will get plus 2k. So you can proc right now, it can proc multiple times a turn. But before this used to be once per turn, so you only got a 4k buff to the column. But now you can scale like the entire column to really big. So in my opinion, one of the biggest problems with the deck before was specifically on your glorious draining turns. Your scaling was non-existent. 1 defensive from 4 shut down your entire turn basically unless you hit a trigger. So having this card to help you just buff up like columns to be really big is definitely very helpful, and definitely in my opinion the biggest buff of the deck. Next we're playing 4 of the PG, of the Unite PG. So GB1 Unite, when she's called, you can pay the cost. When you call from deck, you can pay the cost of put a grade 1 or higher rear on your board back to bottom of your deck, and then at the end of the turn she goes back to your hand. So a pseudo switch roll PG, and a card that stays on the board as a booster for the remainder of the turn. So definitely very nice there. It's a booster and it's a PG back to your hand on the turn. So very nice. And we're just playing as a 1-of. So his skill is this dude's skill is if your Vanguard has Unite, he gets resist. So as long as you are on the new Gurguit, which is now the main ride of the deck, he will have resist. And then GB1 once per turn, if your Vanguard is a Gurguit, you can rest itself and choose a grade 1 or higher rear that is not another copy of itself. I think basically just put a grade 1 or higher card back into your deck to give a unit plus 4k, draw 1, and countercharge 1. So he rests himself. He also rests himself for the cost. So you don't actually like increase your deck count with this, because you put 1 back to draw 1, but you give something 4k and it CCs 1, so it's pretty cool, I guess. Just a filler 1-of. You can play whatever you want in this last slot, but I think this is probably the best slot just because it has resist. So yeah, that's it for grade 1s. Grade 2s, we're playing 4 Pwills, so he's still the main extender for the deck. He doesn't have Unite, which kind of sucks because some cards do. You still want cards with Unite because I think there was something that checks for Unite. I don't remember what, but I'm pretty sure there's something that checks for Unite. But just keep in mind, if there was, I do not remember if there actually is anything in the deck that actually needs to have Unite. But he is when this unit attacks a van and is boosted, CB1 checked out 3, call a card from among them. So he's still your main extender. Definitely still a card you want to play at 4. A card that we've cut down on is the I don't remember her name, but she's the resist girl. So Unite, if your Vanguard's grade 4 or higher, she's plus 3k. So 12k attacker and she has resist. In my opinion, resist isn't really too important in the current meta. Or rather, resist is not important unless you can feel the double resist in the front row, and that even though this deck does tutor for cards very off the deck, quite frequently, getting double resist just sometimes you just don't get it. One resist just doesn't mean anything at all for the decks to actually retire stuff or target stuff on the board. So as such, I decided to play more like combo extenders or other cards that do better things than just be a resist. So that's why we're only playing one of her. She's been gonna play more just to be a solo attacker more than anything. But yeah, in the current meta, in my opinion, unless you're feeling double resist consistently, one resist really does not matter because it'll just target your other intercept and get rid of that instead. So yeah, obviously what I mean by that is Gears and Di, Balam and Jet Z. You have one resist up, they'll just target the other card instead. So yeah, unless you can feel double consistently, it just doesn't really matter in my opinion. So that's why we're only playing one of her. Next up, we're playing 4 of the. I do not remember his name either, but his skill is Unite. If your Vanguard's a Gurguit, he gets those 4K. Not locked by GB, so you can scale with him on turn 3 going first. So you can like put any booster behind him, and you can make like solo column. Van can be 19 with the starter, and then him plus any booster is 20. So yeah, that's really nice. And then GB1, when placed, can be from anywhere, hand, deck, whatever. Discard a card, check top 3, and call any card from among them. So on something, let's say like on a Heavenly Law turn, you can use him as an extender to extend to the other side. Another play you can do with this guy is on place you can play him and then use a skill to try to find a pull off the top. You couldn't find one off of whatever you called him off of. So let's say, for example, on like a Glorious Rain turn, you couldn't find a pull. You found this guy and something else on the other side. You can use him, check the top 3, and then try to call like a pull off of it. This is his skill to call over himself, so you actually have an extender. So that's just a cool play you can do there. But yeah, big attacker plus can be an extender, so that's really 4 of him. Next up, we're playing 4 of this guy. Again, I do not remember his name, but his skill is Unite. If your Vanguard's grade 4 or higher Gurguit, your front row gets plus 2k. So he gives a 2+2k buff to the front row. So common slot you'll slam him behind is behind the van, so just so you can like buff power to the front row. So as you overhaul stuff in your front row while you're extending, you can still gain the passive power gain. Because his second skill, at the end of the turn, if your Vanguard is a Gurguit, you can put him into Soul, so it doesn't matter if he's in front row or back row, because you're probably getting rid of him anyways. You put him into Soul, check top 2, and you mill any card from among them, and then you give your Van plus 5 until the end of your opponent's turn. So you can make your Van 16k base, or if you use 2 of it, 21, etc, etc. But this is nice because it fuels your Soul and makes your Van big, and the card you mill, unlike the other Gurguit, doesn't have to be a trigger or anything, so you just need to mill something off the top to gain the skill, gain the 5k, so yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice defensive effect, as well as being the buff the front row. So just a very solid card. That's what we're playing for. And it fuels your soul because the new Gurguit does need soul for its costs to pay for a strike bonus. So yeah, just does a little bit of everything and fills a very nice role, being able to be a good defensive card, good offensive card, and fuel resources. So yeah, we're playing 4 of that. Next up, triggers. We're playing 4 Heal Guardians. We're playing one of the old Gurguit. We're playing him just because he's ace. Sometimes he comes up, sometimes some decks just can't deal with a very big van, but in the meta that we have found ourselves in at the end of G, being a big van just doesn't matter a lot of the time. Most decks can scale over your big van, so he's just the one up to deal with random stuff where it might come up, because in my opinion, this Gurguit is still technically, at least the strat bonus in my opinion, is still better than the other Gurguits, because even though the other Gurguit technically calls 2 cards, one of them is rested, so you can't really do much with it. This Gurguit doesn't cost a soul, so you can save soul for other stuff. Not that there's a whole lot of other cards that need soul, but regardless, you can save soul, and then his GB2 is very good in the matches where it matters in. So yeah, we're only playing one of it just because it is search by strat fodder, and that we don't actually need too many of this Gurguit, so that's the only thing one of it. But if you want to play more, you can definitely cut down on this grade 3. No idea what his name is, but his skill is Van Rear. It is basically only a rear skill. GB1, Unite. When this attack hits a Vanguard, CB1, check out 4, call a card from him, and give it plus 3k. So he can be used as an extender as well. He just needs to hit, so you need to keep that in mind. But regardless, he is still an extender that hits solo too, because he's 11k. So yeah, pretty good there. Main times to use him as an extender is on like a Helios turn, where like on first try you just don't have the hand to discard for Heavenly Law, so you go for Helios instead, and you can still push extra damage instead with this. So yeah, that's what we're playing for this. And next up, our main ride is this Gurguit. I think it's like a golden holy sword, something like that. But his GB2 is once you have procced unite, so basically once you've guarded twice on your opponent's turn, all your back row units gain intercept and can intercept from the back row. So basically once you get checked twice, they have to hit into your back row before they can hit your face again. So the reason why this skill is so good is because like this skill can stop a lot of the really good multi-attack decks, or just it gets basically against all the good decks. So Coral, Gears, and DI. Once you get checked twice, this comes in and basically stops you from taking any more guard checks. Obviously, Gears can still heritage you the turn after if they're on their on the second stride, because you still need to kill them afterwards. But like against Coral that isn't killing you with Lacol yet, this stops that. Against DI, once they check you twice, they have to hit into your back row. So they'll go like rear into rear, rear into rear, van into van. Let's say that's one check. They flip. Let's say they flip a stand, two stands. They poke you with the restood Baleful, because that's probably what they're going to restand. And then they'll hit that, and then once they get checked twice, they probably get 3 swings at most after that. So they swing into your back row, and as such, you only got checked twice on a turn, where otherwise you would have been asked for like 5 PG. So basically, this Gurk can save you from a lot of bullshit that can kill you for no reason. Also stops like an Avenir turn on a gear against Gear. So this GB2 is very, very good. This GB2, in my opinion, is like the sole reason why Gurguit can be seen as like an anti-meta threat, because this a lot of us just cannot deal with the GB2, because what this GB2 is weak to is like mass board removal, and it just isn't a whole lot of that going on in the current meta. The only deck that like kind of gets that can technically get around this is Shiranui, but even then, if they go for basically anything that isn't Mugen Lord, or like a Mugen Lord at 5 will still make you you'll still get checked from all the Mugen Lord swings, but that they dominated, but they still need to swing into all your intercepts, and after they do the Mugen Lord, they have to have external ways to deal with the intercepts. So that's still annoying there. Mukurok obviously gets around this, and but they go for something like Rene. Funny interaction here is that if you're on GB2, if they use the Rene and they call 2 cards out of your hand, this actually activate this card's Unite. So all those cards that end up calling, and they call into the back row or anything like that, those cards actually gain interest and have to actually swing into them now. So this card is actually really cool in dealing with specifically Rene from Shiranui. So yeah, but TLDR, this GB2 is really, really good in the current meta, and then its stride bonus is on stride, Soul Blast 1, CB 1. Check top 4, call card from among them. If the card you called has the Unite possessing ability, you call the top card of your deck as Rest. So yeah, this was the cards that I was thinking of that requires you to call something Unite. So if you call like a Quill, you don't get the second effect. So it's still fine. You just get checked out 4, call a card. Still good. But if you call anything with Unite, you just get to call an additional card as Rest. So what that card usually ends up being is something you leave in the back row to be GB2 fodder. So yeah. It's still a good stride bonus, but in my opinion, I think the other one's actually better just because you call less, because this deck's biggest issue in my opinion is deck out, so you call less with that, and this one doesn't give power to the unit called. So overall, in my opinion, a worse stride bonus, but a much better GB2. So that's it for the main deck. And for the G zone, we are playing the 1 Harmonics. Harmonics is Harmonics, we'll not go over that. We're playing one of this Gurguit, so this is the big crit one. And that's basically all he's used for. He's used for his giant crit. So his skills like GB2, Unite, Soul Blast 2, CB1, flip anything your G-Zone face up. That's what I'm playing one, because you don't really care for its needing a face-up copy of itself in the G-Zone. He gets a crit, and then all your units get +5. So he makes board big. He gets big crit, but he does use a bunch of Soul, where this Gurguit's stride bonus needs Soul as well. So Soul, you probably won't have you probably won't have the Soul to use this more than once. Whereas with the old Gurguit, you could just like stack a bunch of Soul and just shotgun all of it at once and just get a giant crit van. But yeah, that's basically all he's used for. He's just a van with crit, where when you can confirm lethal, because you know there are all RPGs, this will probably what you'll go into, just because he confirms lethal for you. So yeah, no reason other than that. He's just a giant crit stick. And then next up, still the best ride in the deck is the Glorious Raining. Unite on swing, you can swing to anywhere, so you can deal with multiple intercepts. CB1, G Persona flip, choose 2 green 1 high risk, put back to your deck. Check top 7, call cards from among them equal to your G zone. Cards face up in your G zone +1, and you call 3 or more CC1. So actually not +1. You call card equal to the cards in your G zone. So Usually it's second stride, you call 3 with it, so yeah. Best finisher in the deck, puts cards back into the deck so you deck out a little bit less, and overall just a really, really good card. Definitely like the mandatory 4 for this deck. Next one, we're playing 2 Heavenly Law, so he was one of the cards that actually did get a buff, but his buff was, in my opinion, pretty insignificant just because I don't think CB was the biggest issue with this deck. I don't think that was the issue at all with this card. I think the actual issue with this card was the discard cost, but he kept that, got rid of the CB, so G flip, discard a card, gains the following 2 abilities: Unite on attack, check the 7, call a card from among them, and then for every face-up Gurguit in your G zone, give your board gets plus 2k. So on first try, your board just gets a little bit of power, but if you save this for later, he can make your board really, really big. But he's mainly here just because he's an extender that makes things big. That's really all he's here for. Sometimes as a first try, because he's still a better first stride than the Helios. But in my opinion, the better first stride now is the Helios. Sorry, did I say Helios? I meant that your Heavenly Law is a better first stride than Glorious Rainy. But this is Helios, so in my opinion, this is the better first stride now. So he also got a few buffs, but for the purposes of first stride, the buff does not matter. So Unite, G Persona flip, always unit attacks, you can pay the cost. If you do, draw 1, he gets draw +1. That's the main reason we're playing it, because it's an actual +1 to hand instead of board, which this deck does sometimes want sometimes. So that's the main reason you would ever go into this first stride, because you just don't have the hand to go into Heavenly Law. So you just go for this just to draw a card instead. So very, very nice there. And then if your G zone has 3 or more face-up Gurguit, so basically on if you first throw a Gurguit and then second throw it into him, you can use this effect to put a grade 1 or higher rear back to the bottom of your deck, and he gets a crit. So right, why this is important is because he has the GB3, he has Glory Guard Restrict. So Glory Guard Restricts are pretty bad without crit. And this basically, the buff here basically fixed the issue. He gets a crit now on second stride onwards if you just pay the cost. So that's very, very nice. I think he also draws you 1, so you also don't plus in deck size, you break even. But regardless, still a very, very nice buff, because now his GB3 might actually come up. So on I think it's like he gets plus 5k for all your raids, and he gets the Glory Guard Restrict. So good first stride, and then a potential second stride if you think Glory is the thing that's going to kill them. Obviously, this doesn't come out very often, the Glory part of it at the very least, but the fact that he is, in my opinion, more often than not your optimal first stride warrants an extra pair of him over an extra pair of Heavenly Law, because usually I find myself going into Helios more than Heavenly Law in first stride anyways, and then afterwards you want the option to go into this again if you actually need the Glory Guard Restrict. So yeah, so that's it for the deck profile part of this video, and I'll see you guys for some games after this, so I will see you guys there. So for our first game, we are going to play against Coral. So well, heads up, I'm pretty sure my opponent's deck was kind of not the best, but it is still Coral regardless. But yeah, Coral is one of those decks where if your matchup really does depend on which build of the deck they are playing. If they're playing the Lacole version of the deck, which in my opinion is the better version of the deck, your GB2 is basically useless to get over your GB2 anyway, because Lacole swings over any intercepts and all that. So pretty bad in that matchup. But if they're playing the multi-attack version of the deck instead, like the more stand-focused version of the deck, your GB2 is the reason why you will win the game, because they can't do multi-attack straight ins, because they check you twice, and then afterwards they have to swing to your back row. Obviously, if you full back row, that's like three checks you soaked up. So yeah, that GB2 is again the reason why this deck, in my opinion, is even a contender for like something you might want to actually play in this like final G meta. So yeah, so here you just see me do standard stuff. He didn't ride the AK, so I just get the aggro here. And the best part now is that these stride fodders are actually not just giant bricks on the board you don't want, because because once you hit GB2, these things will be intercepts in the back row, unlike before where it only gave the intercept to resist to a unite unit. So yeah, definitely very nice. Obviously, it's still not the best booster in the world, but it is still a booster on the board. So yeah, very, very good. Yeah, GB2 definitely, the buff to GB2 definitely makes the stride fodder on board when you actually have to search the Gurguit a lot better. So he kills it here anyway, so not like that matters in this game specifically, but yeah, he does that. Let's quickly skim over the beginning. Early game, you don't really like You can actually commit cards because you plus enough that like you don't mind just slamming shit onto the board. And here I made a column that I thought was gonna scale but doesn't, because I thought for some reason, yeah, this will scale. It's a defensive, and then I was like, all right, this actually only makes 18. I just thinking to myself, oh yeah, any boosters with this scales, but yeah, not the 5K unfortunately. So unfortunately this doesn't hit. So we just push for the 2. And yeah, just call them whatever. In my opinion, I'm just like, heal guards don't matter at all in this against Coral, because they either scale over the heal guard or they just ignore completely with the Coal. So yeah, that's why I just kind of threw the heal guard down as a booster, trying to aggro early, because once they get the cross shot base, aggro becomes a lot harder. And since he missed the, and then he actually missed the like the green one in the ride line, he didn't get the 10k base, so you could actually early aggro them. So here he goes into the Coral Stride. He'll do his thing. Blah, blah, blah. He'll do his thing. Oh, yeah, 2 ends up. I think he swung Van to rear. Which is kind of not the play, because, like, your Van has a crit and you're playing stand, so you might as well just play for the stand instead. So, yeah. Because regardless of how you do this, it is 2 damage. But if you high roll the stand, the Van you'll hit for 3 instead. So, yeah. I guess a little lesson, if you're still playing the not Lacole version of Coral, if you're gonna try to extend like this, just pray to God you flip a stand instead of swinging Van to rear. I think just guaranteeing the 2 without wasting cards is better than doing whatever this guy's doing with this. And you could have just done this. You could just call 2 and swung like rear Van instead. So, yeah, just something to keep in mind if you're playing this version of the deck, I guess. Just like, don't do this, just swing Van at Van. But regardless, he pushes me to 4 regardless. Same thing. I guess I killed down. But yeah. First stride here. Like I said in the video, in the deck profile part of the video, what your first stride is basically largely dependent on how big your hand is. And my hand here is quite big considering I stacked a bunch of draws. So here we can actually afford to go Heavenly Law first stride. So here we flip that. We discard a card for cost. Our board gets kind of big now, and our board will only continue getting bigger with the Horsa. So we use this in there because I'd rather hold some cards in my hand. I'll save them for next turn. So we call whatever just as an attacker. You see here the Horsa buffs coming in clutch, letting us scale very, very big. And here I think I'm just contemplating if I want to slam this behind the Van just to get slightly bigger numbers. Yeah, it makes my boosters bigger and makes my front row bigger. So here we just go rear, Van. Hope we find some sort of extender so we can actually push for a guard check here. Obviously, we're going to call over the heal guard first before anything because it's on intercept. Here we find the Canarius. Yeah, that's it, the Canarius. And I don't remember if I think I use this skill because you definitely scale over defensives and stuff here. So yeah, we do this. We just pitch the Quill and just find whatever off the top. In hindsight, I actually could have called the grade 3 here, because the grade 3 would have scaled as a solo attacker, I think. Yeah, it would have scaled as a solo attacker here. So I could have gotten like 2 guard checks in here, but I think here I just kind of was like, oh, I saw it, so I'll just take it. So yeah. So here I definitely could have pushed for an extra guard check if I wanted to. But regardless, you just see here, look at these giant numbers. These numbers are definitely hitting over any defensives, and here we actually managed to ask for a PG from 3. So yeah, I think here is a very good display of how good the Horsa buffs were to the deck. And here, obviously because Coral doesn't can hit giant numbers anyways, there's no point in using these grade 2s to go to Souls, make a Van 21k base. Just leave it on the board, leave one as an intercept, and then leave one on the one behind Van next turn so my columns stay slightly bigger. Yeah, so here he goes for the triple Coral Stride again because I'm at 3, so I'm not really in any danger of dying to multi-attack. And even if I were, I do have the 2 PGs, so I'd have the 2 PGs in hand to to guard, and then I'd proc the Unites to let my back row intercept. But he is playing Lacole in his list too. I thought it was just like the regular stand version, but I guess he's playing both in this deck, I guess. But he's at 13 in deck, so he's like nowhere near hitting stack. So he does this. He does the same thing where he swings like Van into rear. I think he flipped the stand here too, so this definitely could have been more lethal if he just like swung like rear and then speak unboosted and then Van. He could have pushed the 5 and then double guard checked me, but doing it like this only checked me once. And only would have checked me for a heal if I had any in my hand. But yeah, he does this. He's at 5 with 1 int, so he'll just die next turn to Glorious Training. Yeah, so yeah, go Glorious Training. Yeah, so we go into glorious raining. The horses are still on the board, so our columns will still be very, very big here. And here I use the stride bonus just to call some cards because you know, maybe if we hypothetically live next turn, I want to hold the stride fodder. Call this guy and then just call him as rest. This also really sucks that you just take pieces out of your deck for no reason with the stride bonus. That's another reason why I don't think it's very good. Because sometimes you just don't want that second call, but you know, sometimes you're just forced to call if you you're forced to call if you find anything with Unite. And the only thing that does not have Unite is the one of Grade 3 Gurguit, the Quill, and they're in your heal guards. So yeah, but using the stride bonus did make my booster scale bigger because I got 2 calls off of it. So that's the nice thing about that there, I guess. And here we just do whatever. Oh my lord, every single video. But here I was just thinking like how I want to do this. I haven't played this deck in quite a long time, so I was thinking like what was the best way to use this Quill. Because I was just like, oh yeah, if I save this, I don't get the booster, blah blah blah. And then I realized that I could just use the Quill now instead of later. So here we double PG check in, and then we put stuff back and we just do it all over again. So yeah, we put 2 back. And now we just call out the boosters again. So we call out the grade 2, it's the solo attacker by itself into the column, and we just remake a column and then call a and then just call something that can hit solo. So here we call 3. The horses, even the horses that's rested will still buff the Regan in front of it. Here, as you can see here, like even though it's rested, it's still giving power to the front row. So we do this. Trigger power does realistically not matter. We put it to the right, it's not hitting for a PG. We put it to the left, it's already hitting for a PG. But it doesn't matter because my opponent dies here anyways. So yeah, that's it for the first game. Some games here in between, I basically lose to heals. That's one of the biggest things about this deck is that the next game we'll showcase is like a Kagero game. But basically, those games that I lost with this deck is basically me losing to this deck not having the best kill power in the world, because if the opponent heals 1 too many times, you're just going to be stuck in a position where like your kill from 4 isn't very threatening. You're only checking like 2-3 times. So yeah, definitely the biggest issue with this deck is, one, the opponent healing down, and you not having the best kill power doesn't really help. And then also it gets even worse with the fact that this deck is deck out turbo half the time. So this deck loses to the long game and not being able to kill. So this deck's worst matchup is most definitely Gears, because Gears can stall the game out for a long time, and then they heritage you as well. And does not help that like you don't have the best ways to kill them, because your best kill turn is like glorious raining, and like that's like from 5, that's like 3, 4, maybe 5 checks at most if you get really lucky with your calls. And yeah, so yeah, that's just the biggest lying issue with the deck. But here, I don't even remember what happens in this game, so I'll just quickly skim through the beginning. Earlier really is just like you have the ability to slam stuff down if you want. But yeah, just go for first ride. See, as you see here, this game I did not sack a metric fuck ton of draws, so I do not have the biggest hand. So here we actually go for the what's his face, the glorious rating of the Helios on first ride instead, just to try to draw cards. Because here I did not have the biggest hand, so obviously we can use this as an extender. He also did not have double int, meaning we can we can push relatively well, even though we don't have double intercept. And as you can see here, the extra card I called was just a grade 3 that like I didn't really need. So we just throw it in the back. It might be an attack for the next turn. It might be like GB2 fodder eventually. So yeah, that's usually what you do with the extra fodder. You just slam it behind the back row and just leave it there. You obviously can't swing. Obviously you can't swing with it. Here, and you see we also get to see the grade 3 we use an extender on your first on the Helios turn. So here we do that. We just swing. We're not playing stands in this deck, obviously, but we can make him scared of the stand. You know, swing unboosted. Maybe you're playing stands. Maybe we'll flip one on him. But yeah, obviously we know we're not playing stands in this deck. But you know, we'll leave him with that fear of randomly getting check guard checked here. Yeah, but you see here, Glorious Rain, he drew us the trigger, and then we just quad blank. But the drives really aren't what you're looking for. What you're really looking for is just that draw 1. And here I was basically debating on if I want to use this because even though Purge with no triggers and Kagero has really big scaling rears, if I used the thing, I go to 16, right? So if he pings me, I go to 21, and some of his calls might not scale. But my thought process here of leaving it on the board is that I force him to pay a cost to actually retire it, so that if he, unlike in the situations where he rerode, if he didn't reride, he would need specifically a a burning horn to actually kill off the booster, because if he wants to clean up my front row here, he has to burn the Soul Blast 1 and the stride bonus on my front row, so he had to leave my horse alive. But my opponent here just had the re-ride, so he just cleared everything off instead. Well, yeah, that was basically my thought process, is that I wanted to force him to actually get rid of the front row with his costs instead, so I could try to keep the booster. But he had everything anyway, so it didn't really matter what I did there. I guess I got to keep the grade 3 Gurguit, I guess. So he does his thing. He pushes. Did he heal down? He did not heal down. So here, obviously, my opponent's at 5. We will go for the glorious raining. We'll go for the glorious raining here. And I think here I actually ended up finding enough guards to just play a turn out just to be safe. I think, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, here I ended up finding a bunch of PGs. So here we put that back, so we get to see the PG being used too. Like I drew a heal, drew a PG. I think I healed down too during my turn. So I actually think I didn't go super ham on the kill turn here. Yeah, we do our thing. We actually find a bunch of stuff. So here, yeah, we find stuffs. So here, I was just thinking how I wanted to place my board down. So Horsa, and the main reason I wanted to call 3 because I wanted the CC off of the whatchamacallit, the CC off of the the glorious ring, because I actually wanted to keep the C because we're definitely playing for a next turn here. Yeah, so do that. So our numbers are obviously not the best here, but we do end up tutoring for 2 PGs, and we ended up healing down as well. So obviously the GB2 is not going to mean shit here because we're not gonna have a board at the end of this turn. But we managed to check him like 4 times here while getting 2 PGs and getting the heal down. So definitely very, very nice there. Because Kagero, the deck just doesn't really, they don't really like check you a whole lot. Like, they check you like 3-4 times at most. So obviously just playing for a heal there. We found enough PGs for this play safe turn to actually matter, for it to be the correct play here. So we swing here. He had the guards needed to survive, but we also found the guards needed to survive his turn. So yeah, playing it safe here was something that I just saw as a option. I decided to take this instead of trying to push a bunch of columns for lethal. Because to actually push for lethal here, I would have needed a bunch of horses, and I think I didn't have a whole lot left in my deck. So I basically just saw what I had and just decided to play the safer play instead. So I think here he also just went for Purge again. He just went for Purge. He just went for Purge and yeah, pained me and then just hit me to 5. It draw checked both my guards. But that's fine. Next turn we just go for Glorious Raining. But the issue here, I think we were actually out of horses, so scaling here was not the best. And obviously, we were killing from 4 here instead of 5, so that sucks a lot more. Yeah, but yeah, we got the job done. We'll go over this, yeah. No extenders here either because our scaling wasn't the best. So we just call whatever, take the trigger out of the deck, make sure we don't deck out. And we scale just barely well enough that we can hit over everything, so yeah. Even though we don't have Horsa, our columns are big enough because of the, I think his name is Salionis, but yeah, giving 4k to everything. Also swinging the wrong order here, but you know, it's whatever. I think he was out of heals or something. But yeah, we got the dub in the end. But yeah, that is for this deck profile for Gurguit. Again, definitely, I think it's more of an anti-meta pick than, it's definitely like a, I guess rogue is the better word for it. It's definitely like a rogue anti-meta kind of pick, better than a actual like meta contender in my opinion. But overall, still a very solid deck. The buffs definitely really helped with this deck. But yeah, that's it for this deck profile. Let me know what you guys think about this deck down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.